All right, so I call to order the July 15th, 2024 meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission as we have a quorum of members. Let's begin with a roll call vote.
Benson present.
Carol present.
Spadia present.
So let's get right into hearings and possible deliberations. Our first order of business tonight is 135 Dean Street. Request for determination of applicability for a septic system.
Good
Pete, how are you?
Good evening, everybody. I'm good, thank you very much. You can hear me, see me all right?
Yes, sir.
All right, let me pull up my screen. What the heck is it? "35 Dean Street." What's going on here? All right, how's that look? We got it?
Yep, we can see you.
Awesome. For the record, Peter Lyons, with Collins Civil Engineering Group, representing the homeowner tonight. This is a RDA for a repair of a failed septic system. Quick overview of the site, shows to the west, we have a, I believe that's an intermittent stream. Let's see. The 100-foot buffer falls at the 100-foot inner riparian zone falls at the very left edge of the page. The 200-foot is shown right here. The wetland line basically runs north to south along the tree line, and then diverting straight off into the woods where the tree line stays across the backyard. With this one, basically, as we normally do, we're trying to maximize the new septic system's distance to the resource areas, pushing it in the front yard of the property. What we're proposing out front is removing and replacing the existing septic tank and leaching field, installing a new 1,500-gallon septic tank, 1,000-gallon pump chamber to an elevated 20-foot by 30-foot leaching field. This is for a 3-bedroom home. There are some trees coming down for the project. Most of it is an existing lawn. It looks like we're just clearing out a landscaped area, maybe a couple of small trees to accommodate the grading on the northern portion of this site. Let's see, this is the 100-foot BVW buffer cutting right in front of the house. Basically, we are able to keep all the components outside the 100-foot buffer. There will be some site access and grading occurring within the buffer zones. Site access will occur from the existing stone driveway off of Dean Street. We're proposing a stockpile area and dewatering locations adjacent to the proposed work. Sedimentation control will start at the street, ending at the house to the north, and then on the southern end of the project, we're going to start at the house corner, wrap it around, and end it up towards Dean Street as well. This is a pretty straightforward one, relatively flat site. No major concerns as far as sedimentation. Let's see, we got our typical notes on the plan, keeping the site clean. Sweep the roads, clean the driveways, all the normal stuff there. We are additionally proposing 4 conservation marker posts along the existing tree line. Detail for that is shown on the plan to be set in concrete. I don't believe there are any significant comments on this one on the staff reports. One note regarding the compost area that is in place, as long as it doesn't expand closer to the wetlands, as noted by Jennifer. So that's what we got going on. Does the commission have any questions on this one?
I don't have any questions. Jen, any staff comment here?
I do not. There are no issues with this project as proposed.
Any questions from the commission? Any public comment here for 135 Dean Street? Seeing none, Pete, I assume you'd like to close?
Please.
Motion to close the public hearing for 135 Dean Street.
second,
Roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Spady, aye.
Motion to issue a negative determination of applicability, noting +5 and -3 under the Wetland Protection Act, and -2 and +3 under the bylaw. Wait, before anyone seconds, Jen, am I
Nope.
good there?
Just the bylaws -2 and -3, sorry,
-2, -3, my mistake.
it's all good.
Carol motion, Spady a second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Spady, aye.
Thank you, Pete.
All right, I got one more for you.
So I will. Sorry, too many things going on my computer tonight. Our next order of business is 231 Turnpike Street. Notice of intent for the installation of a septic system. Is that yours again, Peter?
Yeah, it is. Can you see this?
Yep.
Great.
Just zoom in a little if you would, please. Thank you.
Hopefully that's not too much. I can move around as needed.
That's good.
For the record, again, Peter Lyons with Collins Civil Engineering Group. This is actually, this one is a notice of intent, as mentioned, for repair of a failed residential septic system. This is a smaller site, about 17,000 square feet on the west side of Turnpike Street. In the backyard, I guess not the yard, but out in the woods, we have an intermittent stream delineated with the mean high line. The 100-foot inner riparian bisects the southwest corner of the site, and the 200 is in the existing driveway. We also have an associative BVW delineated as 1 through 19. The flags are all off the property, but the buffer zones do fall within the limits of the property. With this, our proposal is to, again, maximizing our distance to the resources. We're contending with an in-ground pool, patio area, and then utilities in the front yard. The very front yard, just not enough space to fit it. So our next best option is in the back, tucked up against the pool area. We do meet all the required setbacks for Title V. The proposal is to pump and remove the existing septic tank. The existing soil absorption system is to be abandoned in place. That's under an existing gravel area. Our proposal for the new stuff is a 1,500 gallon septic tank, 1,000 gallon pump chamber, and an elevated 13 by 29 foot leaching field of plastic chambers. This does occur in an existing lawn area. There will be minor grading changes, about 1.5 to 2 feet, to accommodate the mounding of the system and to get cover over the pump chamber. Erosion control, sedimentation control is proposed from the existing pool patio around the entire project, including the site access on the south of the property. We've proposed 5 conservation posts, basically on the existing tree line, contained within the property limits, of course. We do show some debris to be removed between wetlands flag 2 and 3. What else? Typical notes like the last one, dewatering pit detail. Location is shown on the plan in the backyard. We're proposing a 12-inch silt sock, sedimentation control. Let's see. All our normal notes with this one. the site. I believe this is in the Canoe River, ACEC. Yeah, that's a quick rundown. Any questions or concerns from the commission?
So I think we were waiting on the DEP number, but it looks like we have that now, right, Jen?
We did, we got it today. It's 1817.
And I see a note about compost to be removed from the wetland.
Correct.
Pete, can
And
you tell us about that?
I see on the plan we're specking out removing some landscape debris in the area of flags 2 and 3. Let me pull up. I don't know if the staff report mentioned anything else. Something about a medium-sized cage near flags 7 and 8. I don't know exactly what that's referring to, but I'm sure we could condition the removal of that as part of the project.
Okay. Jennifer, staff comment on this?
I didn't have any other comments beside the landscaping debris.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Commission? Mike, Al, anything here?
No, smooth, good.
All right, any comments from members of the public regarding 321 Turnpike Street?
You have one.
So Tim, if you would like to make a public comment, you just have to turn your microphone and your camera on. We'll give you a moment. Jennifer, are you host?
Yes.
Can you do the thing where you click on the corner and prompt them to start the video?
Yep.
Sometimes that'll just help folks get sort of acquainted into it.
If not, the controls are toward the bottom of the screen. It's good.
Yeah. All right, so Tim, it looks like you might have a microphone on. Can you hear us? Tim, can you say something?
Yes.
All right, we can hear you. We can hear you. We can see you. We've made some
Oh,
progress here.
thanks. A good-looking guy. I have a few concerns. I'm the abutter, which is actually that property was part of this property, 1950. But right now, as Pete might know, the backyard is very, very wet, and that's without the septic system. And what I'm having a problem with right now is every time they service the pool, they pump the water out and it goes down my driveway, back into the yard and floods the whole backyard. Same thing as the other owners used to put it over to where Pete's is going to be in that area, and that would also have 2 or 3 inches of water for days. So anytime it rains, fills up with water. And that really concerns me because I'm not sure what the leaching field will do to my, that property. That is my backyard. I do mow it. So, Pete, any response to that, and what's it going to do to the land?
So the questions have to be addressed to me because I'm the chair, and then I'll sort of bring them through to Pete. So I think I understand your question.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. You've done nothing wrong. Also, Tim, you may have done this. Would you mind just stating your address for the record? I think you said that you were in a butter, but I didn't get your address.
Yeah, 319 Turnpike.
Thank you very much. So, Pete, it sounds like there's some concern about soil conditions, suitability for a septic system, and if you know anything about how the pool is maintained, if you could address any of that to the best of your ability.
Sure. I mean, I can start with the general concern of the area. We do have, obviously, we're surrounded by wetlands. It's relatively poor draining soils, underlain by, a natural peat layer as shown on our test pit logs. So it is, susceptible to ponding. in general, the elevations flow from house number 321, relatively flat, pretty flat slope down towards the wetlands. So it's definitely likely, that water is taking its time to get to the wetlands. As far as impact from this project, we're not really changing any grading patterns. It's a concern if we start pushing water a direction that it wasn't going in the past. Right now, everything's basically flowing from the southern end of the pool down towards the wetlands. That's not going to change. It's going to be slightly higher, but we're not going to be certainly not going to be creating any more runoff with this project. As far as the pumping of the pool goes, I'm not familiar enough with the site or where that discharge occurs. I don't really know if it's within conservation jurisdiction. The commission may have some ideas on how to address that, or maybe the discharge line could be relocated. But again, I have no knowledge of where that discharge occurs. Tim,
I was gonna say, on your map, it's at the end of the building that's on my driveway. It's right there. And the landscape is the same one that put all the stuff in the wetlands. They broke it. So now it just flows like diagonal to down my driveway, and there's nowhere to go. So it just goes onto my property. That's how it's working now. I mean, according to the plans, it says that the system is not set up to take care of any backwashing of the pool, and in your notes.
No. So what's really before us right now is the septic system and the installation of the septic system. And if you find that the homeowner is in some way discharging the pool pump into the wetland, that's something that you should make known to us. But it's not. I don't think it's really within the scope of the permit that's before us right now, which is a new septic system, which we typically see as improving water quality in an area when it's in the context of a replacement, as it is here.
I've got a couple of items, but I'm just saying that pumping water is going to mess up the septic system, because that's where the septic leaching field is going to be, and they're unloading it, and it's just fills up and it overflows into my yard. The other thing, I just see I'm not going anywhere. But the other thing is where you have that, Ben, where you have the debris in the wetlands. They also pump out at least 1,000 gallons a day in sump pump water. And if you didn't see it, there's a 4-inch pipe that goes out into the wetlands, and every day it pumps out. So at some point, I don't know if you're going to hit the pipe when you're working on it or not, but that's something that I was a lot friendly with the previous owner, and he set that up, and he actually has a meter in the basement that tells him how much water was being pumped out. But I didn't see that mentioned anywhere. So I guess maybe you guys didn't know about it, but that's not helping us at all. I guess that's it. And I have a well. It mentioned no well, and I do have a well on the other side of the driveway, but it's just.
Is that a potable well, or is it an artisanal well for water, for irrigation?
Well, that's what I was planning on doing, using it for irrigation. It's probably the original water supply for both this house and which 321, which was the restaurant from this house. But I just saw it on the notes. There was no well, and it was. I brought it to the gentleman's, whoever was digging, his attention. So I don't know why.
Okay. Well, Tim, thank you for your comment.
But what? Okay.
Yeah. So what happens next is the board will close public comment. We'll have some deliberation, and then we'll take a vote.
I just got what I mean. I haven't seen anybody. I've been out of town. I came back. I saw this paperwork in the mail, but does anybody do a walk around? And is it too late for that?
Well,
Point out my
our wetland inspection has already been done, and that those notes were listed on the staff report for the applicant to make revisions.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, is there any additional public comment? Okay. Motion to close public comment for 231 Turnpike Street.
Benson, second.
Carol motion, Benson second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Spady, aye.
So just before we take a vote, I'd like to have a very brief deliberation. If there is in fact discharge into the wetland through a sump pump or through an existing pool system, I would like a condition in the permit that mentions that that can't continue.
Agreed.
And I'd like to just take a look, have a look at that at our next sort of inspection for this project as it gets underway.
So the pool discharge does make sense, but the sump pump, it's typically considered clean unless there's an oil tank in the basement. So we can certainly put a condition in there that at pre-construction meeting, we discuss it with the property owners. You know, the property is for sale, and so hopefully it's the buyers that we're meeting with when we do pre-construction meeting. I think Ben's.
Yep, I froze for a moment there. Sorry, everybody.
It was convincing. I couldn't tell.
All right, so motion to issue a permit for work and order conditions for 321 Turnpike Street, noting the pool discharge and that an inspection as to discharges will be done at some point in the pre-construction process.
Spady, second.
Carol motion, Spady a second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Spady, aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Next up is 7 Lois Lane. Permit for work for a septic replacement.
Hey, Karen, do you have anybody else joining you?
Yes, Greg, Bonovich and Al, I think they're both on the same computer, so just Greg.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Yep. Ben, what kind of dog do you have?
He's a Chihuahua mix. I
Oh,
refer to him as an
my
extra large Chihuahua. He's like about 22 pounds.
my dog freaks out over bunnies all the time. It's really a problem.
Ready when you are, Karen.
Oh, are they promoted?
Yeah,
You
Greg's
already
up.
are.
Greg's up. Oh, so I think Greg's gonna start.
Sure. Gregory Bonovitz, Borderland Engineering, here on behalf of the owner, Alan Jonas. Al is not here with me at this time, but may be joining at some point. So if I could somehow share the screen, I'm not that much of a.
You have the ability. Yep. Just down at the bottom, if you hover your mouse over the toolbar.
Little green arrow.
Oh, that wasn't it. Oh, it's here.
Yep, we see your plan, a portion of it.
So this site is 7 Lois Lane, and it is the site of a former warehouse that was built in 2001 with a parking lot, drainage system, detention basins, and it's right now it had a fire at some point in time, maybe about 10 or 15 years ago, and it just the foundation is remaining. So there's a foundation there. They started to construct a steel frame structure, and there's an existing septic system, existing drainage system, and existing parking lot. So as far as the wetland is there's a wetland on the westerly side of the site, bordering vegetated wetland. that was flagged out. There's the existing septic system that's basically in the same place as the proposed septic system. That's outside the 100-foot buffer of the bordering vegetated wetland. And then there's an inundated area that was also flagged out, that is not a wetland, and Karen can speak a little bit more about the details on that. So that's a jurisdictional or local jurisdiction area. Just stressing again that the stormwater system is all existing, subsurface stormwater detention basin, drainage manholes, catch basins, trench drains. They're all existing, functional, and they're going to be remaining in the same location. The edge of pavement is all existing. It's going to be remaining in the same location. There's a little bit of pavement that needs to be removed in the area of the septic system to make room for the new septic system in that location. We're proposing septic tanks, grease trap, septic tank, and a pump chamber. And of course, the most important thing I almost forgot is that it is a change of use for the site. They're proposing a pickleball facility, indoor pickleball facility. There's an existing septic tanks that are proposed to be removed in this area also. There's a stormwater basin to the north that needs to be maintained. And there's also a stormwater basin to the south that's shown on the original site plan from 2001 that also needs to be maintained. I think that's about it for me. I'm here to answer mainly any questions about the septic system or the existing drainage of the property. Karen, if you'd like to add anything.
Sure, yes, I flagged the site on 6/14/24. And there is some wetland vegetation, but no, the soils aren't wetland. The soils were 10 YR 2.2, first 2 inches, 3.2, 3 inches below that, and further down 4.6. So not wetland soils. But as I said, there are plants there. So I flagged the area that was inundated, and we showed that on the plan.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Sorry, Jennifer, would you mind just starting the staff comment on this?
Sure, the inundated area qualifies as a wetland under our bylaw. There is a buffer zone and a 50-foot no disturb zone, so those really should be shown on the plans. Change of use as the zoning thing that really doesn't have anything to do with wetlands. We did receive the waivers. Karen, do you want to talk about the waivers?
Yes, so I submitted a waiver just stating that septic system, it's going to be on the area that it's the area that it's going to be on is currently paved, and we're going to take up the pavement and not pave it when it's installed, so it will be impervious. So
Okay,
I
which resource
submitted one.
areas are you asking for a waiver from? And
So buffer zones and isolated wetland.
okay, thank you. You mentioned the stormwater bases needed to be maintained. Is the operation and maintenance plan that was requested in the staff report
Yes, I uploaded that late this afternoon.
today?
Today, yes.
Okay. And
Sorry about that.
the last comment about the road through the wetland in the back.
Okay, I'll answer that if I'm kind of familiar with that area. There's a little path that was created from one of the abutters on the property, and I believe it's just because there's a down gradient from his access to his property from Pine Street, and his property is pretty narrow, so he can't get to his rear yard area. So he accesses through this area here. I don't know how often it is or to what extent, but I know the owner is just allowing that. He's never asked him about it or anything. He just sees it and just allows it to happen.
But it looks like it's flow from the basin into the wetland, so it's
It's a little path that goes,
jurisdictional area.
yeah, there's a little path that goes through this area that's been there, you know, for probably since the building was constructed.
But do you know that for sure? This is looks like a wetland violation at this point. That was on the staff report.
No, I don't. I know it's been there. It looks like it's been there a while though, that the abutting owner had just been utilizing that for access.
Were you looking at aerial photos?
No, I just looked at it on the site.
Sorry, so how do you know how long it's been used and if it's before wetland protection or through the bylaw?
Although the site was only constructed in 2001, so I can only assume that it was done after it was constructed. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been any way for him to access the property at all. And I assume most likely it was done soon after the building had the fire and was vacant for a long time. And no one ever told the man he couldn't go in that way. So I guess that's, you know, if you want us to block it off, we could.
Well, the question is, how is that going to be addressed?
We could
It's up
probably
to the
vegetate it.
commission. Yeah, it's up to the commission if you want us to, you know, prevent them from accessing the back of his property that way.
Is this something you want to talk about with your client?
Yeah, we could do that. I also didn't mention that we did also put in the conservation post detail, and I wasn't exactly sure that, you know, we have to utilize this area for snow removal and maintenance on the stormwater basin. So I didn't want to put them along here. So I did just put a note that the conservation posts were per the order of conditions.
So the staff report asked for the detail and the locations on the plan. So we have the detail where the marker is going on the plan.
Yeah, so I put a note that the markers could be going anywhere the order conditions would like them to go. Most likely along the limit of work.
And with the operation and maintenance plan, when is the stormwater basin going to be maintained?
During construction of the septic system or but anytime during that, before the building is constructed, the interior of the building.
I don't have any other questions.
And then I just saw a note. Do we
There's
have
a lot going on that came in today.
okay. Do we have a note about a professional surveyor stamp? Has this been stamped?
I think I put the stamp on it.
Okay. So I think what I'd like to see is details onto where the markers are proposed to go. A plan of something to do with the pathway that we discussed, just a proposal to discontinue use and potentially revegetate. I think for the waiver itself, the catch basin work combined with the reduction in impervious surface, in my mind, and I'm one commissioner, meets the public benefit requirement for the waiver. And that's sort of, I think those are my comments on the whole here. Other members of the commission, any comments or questions for the applicant?
Ben, just, I back what you said. I have no questions, but just still a little, like, I'm feeling unsure.
Yeah.
That's
I think
kind of where I'm sitting right now, but that's it.
I think we just need another revision of the plans and a chance to review what was submitted today. So if Greg or Karen, if neither of you have anything else to add, I'm just gonna see if there's any public comment here for 7 Lois Lane. Anybody here to
I-
speak?
I just have a question.
Yeah, please.
On the conservation posts, would you like me to put them along the, I don't know if I'm still sharing screen, along the rear of the property where the snow storage is?
Does your plan label snow storage area?
The original site, this is for the septic system. So the original site plan labels it there.
And was I don't have the original site plan, so that's why I'm asking where it is.
Mhm. Am I still sharing screen or?
No, we don't have the plan in front of us anymore.
Oh, okay, yeah, so it's in an area that's not really ideal to be putting posts along because we need to gain access to maintain the stormwater basin and potential snow storage in that area. Otherwise, I would put them all along the limit of work of siltation control every 50 feet.
It's an interesting point. So you're saying you don't want to put them along the limit of work because snow storage has historically been past the limit of work?
This is a redevelopment site plan.
Yeah, yeah,
So we're only proposing a new septic system. It's so the limit of work does not extend into where the snow storage area is and the stormwater basin.
okay.
So otherwise, it would go most likely, just around the areas that, limit the
Yeah.
actual construction.
Then I think I would suggest that you put them behind the snow storage area.
Okay.
I think that makes
That's
sense.
our, limit of work shown on the plan.
Sort of understanding that the limit of work is for the scope of the septic project and not necessarily what happens at the site.
Mhm.
You
Right.
typically have the posts every 20, 25 feet, not every 50.
25. Okay. I'm just wondering, I know the client, and then there's a lease for the pickleball facility. If there's any way to just condition a revision to the plan showing that 25-foot conservation markers and the driveway thing. We just need to, figure out what's best to do with that driveway. We didn't want to, interrupt that use if it wasn't going to be required, but if it is, it is.
I think we have more to review here. I think we kind of need to push this until our next meeting.
And the staff report was in June, so it's been several weeks since those initial items were first brought up, and the response came in just on Friday and today.
So I'm going to open up to public comment again. If anyone is here to talk about 7 Lois Lane or to give public comment with regards to 7 Lois Lane, please raise your hand on Zoom and we will call you up to a panelist. All right, seeing none, I'm going to move to continue. So motion to continue 7 Lois Lane to the August 5th meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission.
Benson second,
Carol motion, Benson second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Spade, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is 120 Mill Street, notice of intent for a septic replacement.
Not sure who that is, so if you could raise your hand, that would be great. Thanks. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mark Mariano with Oak Hill Engineering, located at 75 Oak Hill Ave, Seekonk, Massachusetts. Can everyone hear me okay?
We can hear you, we can see you.
That's good. All right, I'm going to hang up my phone. Tonight I'm representing Christina Tuban of 120 Mill Street for a septic replacement, which is a notice of intent. Let me start sharing my screen. So their property is an existing house and we have
Mark, we can't see your screen.
Oh.
Looks like it's popping up now.
Sorry, delay on the load.
No worries.
Can everyone
Looks like
see
we
it?
have it. Yep.
And just make it a little smaller so we can see where it is, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, so here's the overall site. We have bordering vegetated wetlands found to the south and east of the property. This is an existing house that's pretty old. We have an existing failed septic system found right here. We have a well head found just to the north of that. So what we are proposing is to replace the septic found here. So we did percolation testing, and we've had now designed a septic that will accommodate the house itself. What we will be doing is we'll be replacing the existing septic tank and replacing the field with an overdig. Some of the setback restraints that we're trying to provide here, we're trying to site the system the furthest away from the resource area as possible. So that's why it's further away, kind of tucked up to the house. We do have somewhat of a town line right here that we're trying to maintain everything inside of Easton. We're trying to meet all Title V and local regs as far as setbacks to septic systems. So we're obviously maintaining the 50-foot setback here. Most of the site is developed. They have clearing up to the stone wall here. And we have put in wetland posts and signs. There's 14 proposed along the edge, and then they kind of meander out as it leaves the edge of the clearing. They are spaced every 25 feet. We have a couple other items. Per the staff report, we've incorporated into the plan. So this is revision number 1, and this is incorporating the comments that were requested per the staff report. Number 1, that the plan be stamped by a professional land surveyor. Let me pull up that one. Here I go displaying that I satisfied everything, and I shouldn't even
The
take-
first bullet point too.
Yeah, right. Let me get it. So I have stamped it, and our professional land surveyor has stamped it as well. Rare species will be illustrated on the plan with proof of mailing to Natural Heritage. So we have done that via the portal, and we have also put a light hatch over this little triangular section that appears on the NESHAP overlay. Second item, page 7 should be resubmitted. Yep, so we resubmitted that, and we checked off the box for the being an ACEC. And we have also checked that off on the waiver request on the local form. The report had identified some wetland alteration near WF12, approximately a 20 by 30 area of lawn debris is in the wetlands and needs to be moved prior to the septic. We have incorporated that note in this area. As shown right here, for the contractor to remove this area prior to installation of the septic system. And then there is a dead overhanging tree. The removal can be added to the permit if applicant wishes. I don't know if we had I don't know if I had the discussion with the client on that. And then the last one is Japanese knotweed observed to the north, which was incorporated here. Other than that, the site is protected with erosion controls, silt fence, and that's maintained at the 50-foot buffer. And that's pretty much it. Grades, as far as grades are pretty much level to what is found out there now. No elevation grades on the side that faces the wetlands. We do have a little bit of increase in elevation right there, but that's about it. But that's also outside, going outside the jurisdictional area. As far as BBW.
All right, so do we have a response from Natural Heritage?
As of today, I don't believe we do. Jennifer, I don't know if, I was out in the field most of the day. I don't know if you saw anything come through.
I did not.
I did put in a call to Emily Holt this morning and I did not get a return call on it, so.
Okay, so under the law, we cannot close the public hearing until Natural Heritage provides their letter, or at least 30 days have gone by from when Natural Heritage receives it.
Yeah.
So we'll have to continue.
Okay.
But honestly, I think you did a great job of addressing the questions that I had here, and I know that Jennifer had here. So is there a plan to deal with the knotweed? I know it's been mapped out, but is that something that the applicant is interested in mitigating?
Well, I had recommended that we mitigate it.
Yeah.
You know, we are asking for some waivers and I think it would be excellent to try to mitigate it at this time. I had
I'm
recommended
one
use of
member, but
herbicide.
yeah, I very much, I've had my own personal war with knotweed and would love to see them being willing to eradicate it.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments from other members of the commission?
No, I totally agree with you. Eradicate that knotweed, and the plan was great. Basically, it's a great layout.
Any public comment here for 120 Mill Street? All right, seeing none. Mark, because of Natural Heritage, we have to continue.
Sure, yep.
So do motion to continue 120 Mill Street to the August 5th meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission.
Benson, second.
Carol motion, Benson second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Beatty, aye.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. See you on August 5th.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Up next is 632, 646 through 666 Washington Street. Notice of intent for the installation of sewer lines.
I don't see Holmgren on here, so who is representing the project? If you could raise your hand.
Everybody have their hand up?
Oh, I'm sorry. Late this afternoon, they asked for a continuance to August 5th.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry.
My mistake if I missed that. Motion to continue 632, 646, 666 Washington Street to the August 5th, 2024 meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission.
Spady, second.
Carol vote, Spady a second, roll call.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Spady, aye.
51 Rockland Street. Abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for a single family home with attached garage, driveway, and utilities.
Hey, Lauren, is someone joining you?
So Bill Buckley from Bay Colony, who submitted the application, is unable to join tonight. So I'll be leading the discussion. I'm not sure if the owners are online, but I can certainly get started.
Great, thanks.
Great. So do you mind if I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. So good evening. I'm Lauren Gluck. I am Managing Environmental Scientist from Par Corporation. And we're here to discuss the ANRAD for 51 Rockland Street. Unfortunately, sorry, it took a moment for that to load. Can you all see my screen?
We can see it, but we can't see it well. If you could just zoom in as
Okay,
you're
I'm
talking
gonna
about
zoom in.
markers, it'd be very helpful.
Here we go. Okay. So this parcel here, this is 51 Rockland Street in Easton. And this ANRAD is filed by Gerard and Tamara Dalton, the owners of this parcel. So these wetlands were delineated last April 2023 by myself and my colleague. And I can briefly go through each of the wetlands on the subject parcel. And I know Jennifer has had a chance to go out and do a review, so then we can go forward and discuss the concerns that were brought up from that. So essentially here we have a single family residential lot. The house is right here. There's a barn in the back here. There's an unnamed perennial stream that flows north to south along the east side of the property. This is actually a town parcel adjacent to the property. So we did flag portions of the wetland system that encroached onto the town property that would impact buffers and riverfront on our subject parcel. So starting down here at Rockland Street, we have a bank series along the river here defined by the R series. Right around here, we have a bordering vegetative wetland defined by the A series that breaks off from the river edge and follows the toe slope within a wooded area adjacent. And then kind of right here, R27, we abruptly ended because we were no longer able to access the river edge. It became a very broad, undefined marshy area. So we were no longer able to follow that bank on foot, but we were able to take the most recent aerial photography, which was 2021 at the time, and create a approximate bank based on that. So that's what this blue line here is, the approximate bank for digitized from the aerial. So then of course we have 200-foot riverfront area extending off of that, the delineated and digitized bank, which is shown here in a light blue line. And then back to the vegetated wetland, starting at flag R15, we have a bordering vegetative wetland fringe. Then it kind of broadens a little bit. It turns away from the river and follows the northeast side of the property here. Sorry, I keep zooming in and out, so I hope I'm not making you too dizzy. Then it follows the north part of the property and then extends off-site to the north here. We ended a little over 100 feet off-site to the north just to make sure we captured all of the buffer zone that could impact the property. And then up in this very northern reach of the delineated area, we have a potential vernal pool. It's not mapped as a potential vernal pool, but we delineated this in April, and we did find characteristics indicating that this feature was a vernal pool. And so we flagged just 4 flags to show the portion bordering the site. Zooming back out, we have a second wetland area, a vegetated wetland under the Easton bylaw, a portion of which we believe qualifies as ILSM under the WPA. This area spans the boundary between 51, which is our subject parcel, and 55, which is just to the west. We did delineate the entire perimeter of this area with their permission. It's a family member that owns the adjacent lot. Thought that was important just to get the areas and to get a full picture of what was in what this wetland was comprised of, since portions of it were off-site. So we delineated the entire perimeter based on the vegetated wetland characteristics, hydric soils, vegetation, and other indicators of hydrology. Most of the wetland is kind of a really shallow, saturated to seasonally flooded area. And then at the very southern portion, we have a flooded basin that was identified as a PVP on the GIS. And also we could see very clear indications that the southern portion does flood as a a kind of a confined basin. So within this B series, we did delineate the PVP series, which starts over here, crosses around through here, and then reconnects here. The southern and eastern portions of that feature correspond to the wetland line, where we saw indicators of flooding up to the wetland line, but then up here, those kind of disappear to the north and to the west. So we did call that a local bylaw vernal pool. We did find characteristics, biological evidence in that area that it serves vernal pool habitat, although when we flagged it, it was an exceptionally dry time. So it was almost entirely dry at the end of April, but I believe that was kind of an unusual condition based on the water staining we saw there that indicated it flooded to at least 12 inches across most of it. So there was a little bit of back and forth with Jennifer. She was asking if we were calling this whole wetland an ILSF, because we did label this here ILSF, indicating the whole thing is an ILSF. From what we understand, the bylaw protects any flooded area as ILSF and any wetland as a vegetated wetland, regardless of size or volume. So we did use those parameters in our holistic delineation of the area, but then down here at the bottom where we have this PVP, that would be the boundary of the ILSF under the state regulations, which only would include areas of flooding, of basin, basin-like depressions of flooding that hold a 1/4 acre foot. So this area is about, I think it was 0.35 acres, and flooded, most of it was flooded to a foot or more. So we didn't give a precise calculation, but I know Bay Colony will be heading back out to the site, and that's something that they could collect more detailed topo on if the commission wants to make a definitive ruling on whether or not it's a WPA ILSF. So at this point, I'm happy to take, one last thing. There is Zone A floodplain mapped on the site. However, there was a recent letter of map revision, which Bay Colony had attached in the ANRAD filing. And it's not, the revised limits of flooding are not shown on this plan. However, we are going to be providing an updated plan. There was some requested corrections and additional information that we will be providing on the revised plan, including showing or notating what the revisions to the floodplain were. So that sums it up, and happy to answer any questions or go through Jen's comments from the staff report.
Lauren, could you just outline the actual perimeter of the site that we're talking about?
Yeah, so
that got a little bit lost on me as we went through it. I understand the resource
I
areas.
know. Yeah, so I'll actually, this isn't going to make it easy for me. But it's this kind of, it's all trapezoid here. I'll make it really bold. There we go. We did flag everything of the B series. You'll see it goes on. This is 55 Rockland. And this is a family member of the owner of 51 Rockland. So we were told to flag all of it, although much of it is off of their property.
How big is this parcel?
This parcel is 3.13 acres.
So I just want to sort of make sure that we're on the same page with one thing here too. So it's my understanding that an ANRAD, it can only be issued for a parcel. Like I can't do, this ANRAD wouldn't affect the adjoining parcels. It wouldn't be all of the resource areas.
If
Does that make sense?
both parcels, then we would be verifying on both parcels.
So here we would be verifying both parcels. So the ANRAD is for 2 addresses.
We just have to look on the first page and see what they put down in their application.
Okay.
The application does, and I verified this with Bill shortly before the meeting, the application does say 51 Rockland Street, which is just this parcel. And you'll see there is some on the town land, and then there's some on 55 that would potentially have buffers affecting the site. So if there was anything we would need to do to make sure that any relevant wetlands from the surroundings would be included, we could provide that. I mean, for the town land, we have River Edge that just kind of blanks here. So I don't know if there's a procedure, if we would have to get town permission or if we would need a signature. Like we could get a signature page from this adjacent owner easily before the next meeting, just, or, you know, I guess I could also just talk to Bill because I think for this B series, like, I don't think the buffer, like, it's not like this line goes up over here and it's going to change the buffers if we cut it off here because the buffer is kind of perpendicular. Same over here. So they might be fine with cutting out this portion from the ANRAD. You know, I think.
And just to be clear, look, I think you've done the work, right? From what I can tell so far anyway, I think you've done the work for both parcels. I just want to be clear about what you're asking for. And are you looking for an ANRAD across 2 parcels? Or are you looking for an ANRAD across 1? And I don't know what was paid by way of a fee. And I just want to make sure that the commission sort of understands that.
Okay. Yeah, so when I spoke with Bill briefly tonight, he said anything within 100 feet of our property is what they would want, probably just to capture any buffer zones. But again, we had only put 51 on the application. So I think I understand that you may need additional or revise.
Well, I think we can absolutely confirm the buffer zones on your property based upon the site conditions around it. But I think it would just be the buffer zones and the resources on the one property that's in front of us.
Okay.
Am I right about this, Jen, or am I saying this incorrectly?
It's whatever they're asking for. So if they only
Okay.
asked for the one parcel, then even though the information is on the plan, that's fine. We just make the ORAD list the one parcel if that's all they're asking for. If they want both parcels, then they just need to revise that first page so we know to include both of the parcels. That's all.
Right. I think I'm creating confusion here, Lauren, so I apologize.
I was also like, oh, wait a minute, are we only doing one? So yeah, I wanted to make sure with him. So I can confirm that, but then in terms, regardless of 55, is there an issue with verifying the buffers of this town portion here? Is that acceptable?
Yeah, no issue with that.
Okay. Yeah, so I can confirm that with him, and if he wants boundaries verified on 55, I understand we need to make that clear in our application, so.
Okay. Jennifer, any additional staff comment here?
If the PVP has a number from Natural Heritage, would you please add that to the plan?
Okay.
And I think I sent a schematic of how to do the vernal pool buffers. So
Yeah.
you can relabel those.
Yeah, and that's one of the items that when Bay Colony goes back out, because they didn't locate the edge of the lawn. I was assuming that just GIS aerial isn't sufficient, that you would need something more precise, like a located boundary of lawn. I
mean, it could be aerial photo if that's what you like. That's fine.
Okay, I'll let them know, because I think they're going out there soon.
Yep.
Okay.
But I would be looking for the isolated land calcs. So.
Yeah. ILSF calcs.
Correct.
Okay, and that would just be for this area down here. The rest of this, I suppose, would be non-jurisdictional under the state, but.
Well, we don't know that if you don't provide the calculations.
The calculations for up here where there's
That's
little
labeled isolated land subject to flooding. So
okay.
The way you have it labeled on that plan, we would take jurisdiction over it. But you're telling us you don't think it's under the Wetland Protection Act, but that's not what your plan says.
Okay.
So if you want to change that, I would suggest you change the labeling, but if you're going to change the labeling and say bylaw only, then we're still going to ask for the calcs for both of them.
Okay, because up here, there's really, it's isolated, disjointed, shallow pockets a few inches deep. So we weren't planning on getting volumes for those areas. It's kind of a mix of saturated with little pockets up here. There's a path that bisects through here that cuts off any potential flooding that could be up at the top from what's down here in this big basin. So what I had intended to do was change this label to be within this area here and get calculations for this area here, which is the only place that we have something remotely approaching, you know, a 1/4 acre foot of volume. And I can have them take more photos or whatever out there, but there's no basin, there's no flooded basins up here. It's just little micro relief, very shallow.
I'm gonna leave the comment the way I left it.
That's fine.
You
Okay.
submit what you want, and then the commission will review it, and if they don't have enough information, then they'll make a decision for you, but
Okay, that's fair.
and asked. Thank you.
All right, so any additional comments from members of the commission? Seeing none, any public comment for 51 Rockland Street? Seeing none, I'm going to do a motion to continue. So we'll motion to continue 51 Rockland Street to the August 5th, 2024 meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission.
Spady second.
Carol motion, Spady a second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Spady, aye.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren.
So our next order of business is 524 Depot Street. Notice of intent for the construction of public safety and public works facilities.
Greg, I have you and Devin. Did you want anybody else to come up?
If you could promote Eric Royce and Brian McCusker as well, Jennifer.
And Elena Compter, if you'd please.
Sorry, forgot Elena.
I was actually already working on her. Got everybody right?
I think that's everybody.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That's who would like to start.
So Devin will share her screen and we'll give a brief introduction to the team in the project, and then Devin will kind of take it over from there.
Perfect.
So my name is Greg Joint. I'm with Castle Booze Architects. We're the lead architect on the project. With me here tonight is Devin Hendrick, Weston and Sampson's wetland scientist. Devin, we're seeing your background screen, not the presentation.
And I was muted. All right, let's try that one more time. Let's see. Let's just do the entire screen. That way we don't miss it. All right, how about now?
That's it.
We can see
Great,
it.
thanks.
Excellent, thank you.
So with me tonight is Devin and Brian with Weston and Sampson, and Elena with Weston and Sampson. Brian is the architect for the public works facility. Elena is the civil engineer, and Devin is the wetland scientist. With Castle Booze with me is Eric Royce, who is our landscape architect, the landscape architect for the project. With that, we have a relatively brief presentation on a very large and complex project. We do have some initial comments back from Jennifer and the stormwater peer reviewer that need to be addressed still. So we'll look to continue, tonight, but we felt like given the size and scope of the project, it would be good to get in front of the commission, allow you to see kind of the progress that's been made since some of you have last seen this, and go through any concerns that the commission may have. With that, I'll turn it over to Devin to go through the basic area, and we'll jump back on to me as we get into kind of what the project is. Devin?
Absolutely, thank you so much. This parcel is located off of Depot Street, adjacent to the power line right of way, if anyone is familiar with that particular area. This is part of a much larger parcel, but the area that we are looking at is actually a very small component of the parcel here, approximately outlined in red. So while the parcel is a little over 150 acres, our limit of work is only 10 of those acres. Which was part of an agreement when the town purchased this property. And here we have a map just to orient folks as to where the wetlands are located on site. Now, this is the Mass GIS layer, so we'll have some more exact wetland flags for you to show as we move into our presentation. But just to give you an idea, the wetlands do continue within the approximate limit of work by crossing in 2 locations where this proposed road crossing is located. And there is also an intermittent stream located here on the southern crossing. And again, we'll get into that a little bit more detail later on in the presentation. Greg, I'll pass it back to you for some background.
Thanks. So most of the commission members are familiar with the project. This project encompasses a number of items for the town. A new public safety building and public works facility are located on this site. The overall project also includes another parcel on the other side of town for a fire substation. These will replace the existing facilities that the town's departments use and consolidate use into this single parcel. Jump to the next slide, Devin. Really, these buildings existing are all past their useful life. They have a number of issues with them on their own sites. And so this replacement was authorized by the voters. And this project has been voted on numerous times by the Municipal Building Committee. And we're here today to present really what is the end of design development to you for consideration as we go forward through the permitting process. Next slide, Devin. So the feasibility study looked at a number of sites around town and a number of configurations of the project. And ultimately, the building committee voted on a kind of consolidated project at this parcel. This parcel was bought by the town in 2014, subsequently studied, and we are developing in the area where the 524 Depot Street Commission had proposed municipal use of the site. So we'll just jump to the next slide, Devin. We looked at the entire parcel for alternative areas. This was concluded to be the most appropriate area for development, and that sticks with the previous town commission's approach. There's a number of reasons why that we'll get into the presentation, but essentially this is what we're proposing. I should note that the work area does extend slightly over that 10 acres to remedy some existing on-site issues, but the developed area for municipal use would be limited to 10 acres. And so an aerial view of the rendering of the site proposes on the left-hand side, adjacent to Depot Street, a public safety building, approximately 52,000 square feet. And at the back of the site on the other upland area, it's a DPW facility that's approximately 62,000 square feet in area. In an aerial view looking over Depot Street onto the development, public safety building in front, as you can see, and in the back there, the public works facility. You can see on the left, the power line easement and kind of the two bridges that span over those wetland crossings that Devin indicated before in the middle there. And we'll get into just kind of all of the options here that were presented. Many of you are active in town, so I won't get into it too much. But ultimately, there were 7 different options covered in the review with different permeations of this project. This was ultimately to consider to be the best by the town as we moved it forward. In terms of schedule, we have the proposed schedule here. Really, mobilization for construction wouldn't start until spring of 2025. Clearing and grubbing would be in the summer of 25. Excavation for the bridges, again, summer, fall of 25. Bridges would be done in the fall of 25. Public safety and the public works building would likely be constructed simultaneously, with some small delay for the public works facility while they build the bridges on to allow for access. And the project is anticipated to be complete by January of 27. I'll turn it back over to Devin and Elena.
Great, thank you so much. I'm actually just going to turn it straight to Elena to discuss some of the initial findings from the stormwater report and what we're doing with the stormwater moving forward.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Elena Compter with Weston Sampson. I'm just gonna briefly go over stormwater report. As Greg mentioned, we are actively working on some revisions that really precipitated from additional test pit information that we have done after this report and design has been submitted for review. To no one's surprise, since the site is really surrounded by wetlands, the groundwater was found actually shallower than we originally anticipated. So we are looking at the design and revising some of the stormwater infrastructure to work with the shallower groundwater. But I think that the general approach that I will discuss with you stands, so I think it still will be beneficial. Devin, can you go to the next page? As you can see, we are using a variety of different stormwater BMPs on a public safety side, which is adjacent to Depot Street. We are utilizing some bioretention swales and areas to really shoot flow adjacent pavement areas into them, bypass additional structure catch basins. Since we are required with this development within 10 acres, we have to really go underground a lot of the stormwater runoff. So if you can see in blue, there are some subsurface infiltration or detention areas. Similarly, on DPW side, we're also using some underground detention and infiltration areas, as well as a couple larger surface basins. And the central portion of the project, which is really just the connector driveway roadway, they're just going to proposing a couple leaching basins to infiltrate the runoff from that portion of the road. Devin, can you go to the next page?
Absolutely.
This is just showing some of the different BMPs that we're proposing to use, that they will really be providing pre-treatment to the stormwater runoff. So in public safety side, the bioretention swales and areas where feasible will be utilized. In areas that they're not feasible, we will be using hydrodynamic separators and more proprietary structural BMPs, as well as deep catch basins to pre-treat runoff before infiltration in a subsurface or above ground infiltration basin. I think that's probably it for me, unless, can you go? Couple pictures were missing. So this just shows some of the underground infiltration detention BMPs that we will be using.
Elena, I can take it from here and talk a little bit about the Wetlands Protection Act resource areas that we have present on site. We have 3 resource areas regulated under the WPA, bordering vegetative wetland, bank for intermittent stream, and land under waterways for that intermittent stream. The impacts have been avoided and minimized to the maximum extent practicable. It should be noted that this entire area is located within an ACEC, and so it's been the mission of this project to avoid any type of permanent impacts to the BBWs. So with that, the team has worked very hard to design a plan, which includes a bridge that will span the 2 BBWs that are present Again, these crossings are associated with the roadway that's going to be connecting the public safety and the public works facilities. And so these temporary alterations are associated with the temporary matting that will be needed. So the footings for these crossings will actually be located outside of the wetland resource areas, and a span, precast span, will be brought in and used for each crossing. However, in order to access both banks for the installation of the footings, that temporary matting is required. So the use of that temporary matting, that's going to ensure some physical stability of the BVW bank, and land underwater will not be impacted as that equipment crosses, especially the intermittent stream for the proposed bridge installation. We expect that temporary matting to be installed for about 4 to 5 months. Let's see here if I can bring up, no, okay, sorry about that. Bank full width at the intermittent stream crossing is approximately 17 linear feet. The proposed span is approximately 80 linear feet, so that will exceed the minimum 1.2 standard. And the bottom of the span is going to be located approximately 10 feet above the intermittent stream. So we are anticipating full compliance with the Massachusetts stream crossing standards, which we'll be providing additional information on, as that was one of the comments that we received from Jennifer. So thank you so much. We will also be updating some of these BVW numbers to reflect some additional mitigation in the form of trash mitigation, which is not currently included. So some brief information on this. Mitigation is proposed on site, and that includes the removal of trash, both in the BVW and in the buffer zone. This trash has been accumulated as a result of previous land use as a pig farm. This project is estimating to remove about 2,500 tons of debris, and the debris area measures approximately 52,700 square feet. And again, that spans both in the wetlands and then in the upland adjacent areas. The team has GPS located the limits of the trash, and the approximate areas are shown here in a number of different polygons. Here we have some photos on the left side which show you the range of debris that is present. It goes from quite small to quite large. The plan is to utilize hand removal in wetland areas. So these are those same polygons, and we have them broken down into several different mitigation types, if you will. So portions of the trash that are located within wetlands are partially within these blue polygons. Again, we're still working to calculate the exact numbers so that we can update you ahead of the next meeting. But the portions of areas that have trash within the wetlands, we anticipate to be only hand removal, rake and clean, and then restore with a wetland seed mix. In some of the upland areas, we anticipate a bit more of a range of options. We have purple here, which is shown a removal with limited disturbance, where we rake and clean and restore with a conservation seed mix. Then we have green, where this is a removal and a restoration to proposed grade, and then a plant with conservation seed mix. And then this orange here, that overlaps with some of the development that's proposed. So that is removal of trash to allow for the redevelopment, because we want to make sure this area is clean and none of that trash gets mixed in as part of the redevelopment. Again, the plan is to utilize hand removal in the wetlands and the uplands as much as possible. However, we do have some rather large items, specifically in the uplands. None of these large items are located in the wetlands, but this may require equipment to be utilized. This is a list of some of those large items that are present, including a 53-foot trailer and a 30-foot trailer, 100 tires, 155-gallon steel drums, various steel office supplies and chairs. So as much hand removal as humanly possible. Now on to the town of Easton's wetland regulations. The proposed project will include impacts to regulations regulated under the Easton Chapter 503 wetland regulations. We made a list of the chapters that we are aware that we will be impacting as part of this proposed project, and they've been addressed in the project narrative. We're also aware that the town of Easton wetland regulations allow the applicant to request waivers from the performance standards. And so we have completed the waiver request forms, and I have a list here of the waiver requests that we are proposing. I won't read each one, but we just wanted to make sure the commission was aware that we do know about the waiver request process, and we are doing our best to comply with all of the waivers that we will be submitting. So here are the 3 pages of waiver requests that we anticipate. And I'm going to turn this over to Brian to talk a bit about the salt storage and fuel island.
Hey, good evening. Brian McCusker, Weston and Sampson. A few of the responses you'll see in the responses back to Jennifer in the peer reviewer, there were some questions about the fuel island. So we're also providing a couple slides tonight just to kind of introduce some people to some of these items. So in the true salt plan of this DPW, I guess backyard, we'll call it, we have the fuel island. So you'll see that right there. And then to the right, we have the salt shed, which will store the majority of the town's salt. And actually right now they store in a few salt sheds currently, but this will handle them for the duration of a winter. So it's sized appropriately. So if you can go to the next slide, please. And this is just an example. It might look a little bit different in terms of setup, but in the top left, you'll see an example salt shed. So it'll be a fabric membrane structure. It'll be adequately sized for the town's needs, which we had worked with Dave Field and Greg Swan from the DPW to anticipate that. You know, the door itself too, as well, is high enough that a loader can, a dump truck can lift their gate and pull out. So there won't be any more of dumping the salt in the yard, let's call it, and then pushing it in to a salt shed. So once again, kind of a best practice in terms of that. It also, we usually elevate the salt shed as well, so that way water doesn't infiltrate. So what that does, it just kind of keeps rainwater and things out. It doesn't, cause any, slushiness inside the salt shed. And then below it in the fuel island, So on the fuel island, best practice, we do above ground tanks, which we are doing here. It's an example fuel island, so it might look a little different by the time we actually get done designing it. I think, we only have one tank with dual compartments, but they're double walled with continuous leak monitoring. We have 10-gallon remote fill boxes. So that way, if they're filling up equipment that actually is in a vehicle, they don't spill it. You know how that usually happens if you're at Cumberland Farms filling up your weed whacker or something, right? Both tanks will be equipped with overfill prevention. So that way the fueler doesn't, overfill them and cause a spill. And then, in terms of efficiency, the DPW maintains this and they will have spill buckets and, within that spill bucket have all the materials appropriate. So that way, if there is a leak, they are responsive. So that's the salt shed and fuel island. Next slide, please.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Brian. We just wanted to let everyone know we have the plan set open in a separate window. So if there's anything in particular that folks would like to zoom to, we're more than happy to do so. We have received a DEP file number, and there was one comment issued by the DEP, which indicated that a permanent stream crossing would have permanent bank impacts. We plan to formally address this comment when we do our full response to comments, but the plan for this proposed project is not to have any permanent impacts. We're going to be utilizing that temporary matting so that we can avoid those permanent impacts, and the crossing will be located high enough above the stream that we won't be proposing any, again, permanent impacts. So, and for mitigation, we'll be looking at that trash removal. But again, we'll be formally responding to that as part of our response to comments. As we had indicated, Jennifer was kind enough to send along a list of comments, and we received initial comments as part of the stormwater peer review. So we're here just to begin this initial presentation. We're not looking to close this evening, but if you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to try to answer them for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think I probably could have been a little more clear about that, but there's still some things that need to be cleared up before we're in a position to close. So if anyone's here for public comment, there will not be a motion to close the public comment or this project tonight. One thing that I would like very much is if we could stake out sort of the center line of the proposed road. And I'd like to go sort of take a walk so that I can understand exactly where all this is going. Again, probably some of my inexperience in this, but I always have a hard time just taking a walk onto an undeveloped site and sort of visualizing where everything is without the help of some stakes. And I would really like to walk the site between now and next meeting. I think there's probably enough staff comments here that it might not warrant a full discussion. Everybody sort of in agreement with that? Like, I think there's some work that needs to be done before we can get into the nitty gritty of all of it. So did any members of the board have a specific question for the applicant?
I'm interested in knowing, what is the revetment area to the left of the salt shed? It looks like
Let me
there's a
bring up the plan set and let's take a look. Is there a particular sheet number you'd like to reference?
The salt shed and public dispensary, gasoline dispensary area.
No problem. Bear with me, and I think I can share that with you. Let's see here.
I think there's two things. I think that's either their potential recycling containers or it's their material bins is what I'm assuming actually.
I think it's the one before or after that.
Actually, while we're getting to this, I have a question on the staking out. Jennifer, when we do that, do I email you and then you'll let the Conservation Commission know? Okay, we
Yep,
can get
we can do
that.
that. That's
We'll
fine.
get that
Thank you.
GPS soon. Okay.
Let's see, Brian, would the revetment be indicated on this sheet?
Yeah, so zoom in on the salt shed area, maybe. I think exactly,
Yeah.
maybe. So
It'd be to the left, right here.
oh,
Like concrete blocks and then, yeah.
yeah.
What's that storage area for?
Yep. So those blocks are the loading ramp. So when they load their salt, what happens is they go in the salt shed and then they back out and they go in the loading ramp and the trucks kind of pull up alongside that and then they exit. So they kind of go in a circular motion around the DPW just in terms of the truck sizing. And then next to the salt shed, we have a brine system. So the DPW currently has a couple tanks that they use to help make the salt more efficient. So they spray different organics and fats on the salt a lot of times to make a brine, and this actually is a cheaper way. If you ever noticed the lines on a road before a storm, they pre-treat, so that's usually the brine system. So very helpful. Everybody likes that, right? So that's the brine system. We usually put that nearby to the salt shed and they spray the bed of the trucks a lot of times before the trucks roll out. And then the DPW has a large facility maintenance crew. So right above it, they have their roll-off dumpsters that they currently have at their other yard right there. So those are those 4 rectangles that are angled.
Yeah, your sheet notes to salt loading ramp. So, okay, thank you.
So
very much.
Do you have the image maybe?
Yeah, the ramp is elevated just to make loading of the trucks a little bit safer.
Okay,
So that's
thank
what
you.
that is, and it was shown in the picture from the PowerPoint.
Right there. Yep. That's, yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Mike, any questions?
No, I'm good for right now. I'm hanging in there, but I've been on the site myself, Ben, so it'd be good for you to definitely check it out.
Yeah. Questions or comments from members of the public?
No, but I'll just have one before you continue, when you're ready.
I'm ready for you.
Okay. I just wanted to say that you've really done a great job pulling together your plans with the limited space that you have and meeting the bordering vegetated wetland performance standards that have to be met for no impacts to the wetland in an area of critical environmental concern. So nicely done with that. We just need a little bit more information. I know you have a lot of comments from me, but that's not, it's not a criticism. It's just trying to get everything buttoned up and the rest of the information that we need in order to write the permit for you. But it looks like you're meeting all the performance standards. We just need to close the gaps there. And then our peer reviewer has already started the review. We've already had a Zoom with those comments. And I know you'll be addressing those soon. So thank you.
I would add that that presentation was excellent. I think I understand the issues at play. And between peer review and staff comments, I think we'll get there. All right, so seeing no public comment, I'm going to do a motion to continue this. I should just say that motion to continue 524 Depot Street to the August 5th, 2024 meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission.
Benson, second.
Do you
Carol,
think there's
motion.
enough time for you? Sorry, just want to.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Do you think that's
There's a
enough
lot
time
of
to?
questions.
Yeah, I think so. And Jennifer, we're in contact pretty regularly. So if there are issues that come up that don't allow us to get there, I think we'll be in contact. Ben, we will get that, center line of the road staked out as quick as possible. I will warn you that it's midsummer, very hot and very wet.
I know what I'm asking for.
It's pretty deep out there. So
Yeah, it is.
be careful,
Very
please. But yes, we'll do that. And please be careful when you pull into the site. We did dig up quite a bit of it in areas, so it used to be pretty smooth out there. Pulling off onto that area is a little bit rougher than it used to be, so please just be careful.
Will do. Thank you.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt your motion. Just wanted
Nope.
to make sure you had the right amount of time for them to respond.
So Mike, did you second that or did Al?
I did.
Al, sorry, Al. Carol motion, Al second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Spady, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
your
all.
time.
No, thank you. All right, good night.
Right. So our next order of business has requested a continuance, 718 Washington Street. Notice of intent for the construction of a commercial building with a new septic system. Any comments from the commission before I move to continue here? I know we've had a few continuances. Let's give them one more and then ask for an update. So motion to continue 718 Washington Street to the August 5th, 2024 meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission.
Spady, second.
Carol motion, Spady second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Spady, aye.
All right, our next order of business has also requested a continuance. This is Washington Street, the Mass DOT project from Dickerman Road to Elm Street. I guess my question here is, do we think they're going to be ready by next meeting?
No, they emailed and asked for a continuance to the September 9th meeting.
I think that's a little more reasonable here. So a motion to continue the Washington Street project to the September 9th meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission.
Benson, second.
Carol motion, Benson second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Spady, aye.
All right, moving on to certificates of compliance. Our first is 64 Meeting House Lane.
That's ready for a full certificate?
Motion, any board discussion? Yeah. Motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 64 Meeting House Lane.
Second.
Carol motion, Spady a second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Spady, aye.
8 Washington Street.
Both of those are ready for a full certificate of compliance.
All right, motion to issue a certificate of compliance for both 8 Washington Streets.
Spady, second.
Carol motion, Spady a second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Spady, aye.
Oh, was that 3 Washington Streets? Wait. No, I'm looking at the agenda.
You got him.
Okay, thank you. 530, 550 Turnpike Street. Request for partial certificate of compliance. Anyone here to talk to us?
Austin is joining us. Yep.
Hey, Austin, how are you?
How you doing? Austin Chardy with McKenzie Engineering Group. So Yeah, so we filed the partial certificate of compliance out here, just a little update. Essentially, they've completed substantial work out here in terms of the site development. Everything's in place, everything's installed. They got their certificate of compliance from the building department, so the tenant Beacon Roofing has moved in out here. And there's still a few items out here in terms of natural heritage and some of the restoration work that was done out here with in terms of the driving range restoration and invasive species management. So some of that work is going to be inspected through 2020-25. And so, but they did want to, with the tenant moving in, they wanted to make sure, essentially get their partial COC that, and cover any items that the commission might have had. So it's really, we filed this partial COC just to make sure everything, looks like it's, you know, what we want to see out there. So we did receive the staff report as well as the peer review, and we issued a response to that. There was just a couple of items that I personally had questions on, and I was kind of hoping to get the commission's input on that. One of them being the conservation markers out here. I think that it's a, you know, it's a simple item, and the site contractor out there is just maybe looking for a little clarity. I know Jennifer had said 25 feet out here. It's about 2,100 linear feet of the actual limit of work, which essentially all borders, you know, jurisdictional land. So that's, you know, somewhere around 200 posts out here, which I think for a commercial site like this, it's just going to look unappealing. So we were, you know, there's 4 out there today, and we kind of strategically placed those in areas where people might be. But, you know, we're just going to have trucks pulling around back and people parking in the parking lot. I understand for a residential use, you might want them every 25 feet, but, you know, we were thinking of, you know, maybe something like every 100 feet or something like that, and just wanted to get your thoughts on that. And then the other big item was the drainage basin was holding water, and the owner is aware of that. We met on site last Thursday to kind of go over the restoration process for that. Essentially what happened, or it looks like during construction, after the temporary 4 bays were removed for paving, it was taking some unstabilized portions of the site, and the site to this point is still somewhat unstabilized. They just got the irrigation installed about a week ago. So, and obviously it's not a great time to replant everything. So they're doing their best to stabilize what's there. And they do plan to do a kind of a full restabilization of the site in the fall. And so we're kind of, what we're doing is we're going to clean that sediment basin out. You can see areas where, you know, definitely some, in the bigger storm events, some sediment's gotten in there. So they're going to clean that basin out, kind of try to keep it dry and let that stabilize as well. And then I think, I know they brought in about 2,100 tons of sand at the bottom of that basin, because they dug down to the about 6 feet to the natural materials out there. So, you know, we do know that the basin was constructed per plan. Now it's just getting it working that way. So that's something, you know, we're hoping, you know, we can get this partial COC taken care of, and then prior to any final issuance, that's something we would certainly have more to report on you on that, but it is kind of still technically under construction out there. And that's kind of all I had on my end.
So the site's not stabilized, the basin isn't working properly, and the landscaping areas, whoever's doing the landscaping is going to need those no disturbance zone markers in place so they don't dump into wetland areas. And we don't have the surety agreement that was sent several weeks ago with no comments on that.
That is the one from like the new building owner, the new tenant.
Whoever's posting the surety bond should have responded to the draft surety agreement that I sent at least 3 weeks ago.
Okay, I'll follow up on that.
And so what's the plan for making the infiltration basins work properly? That's
Yeah,
all.
so I
3
guess
weeks.
what I was trying to say
Haven't
is,
heard anything.
so during construction, essentially, did take some undisturbed portions of the site, which I think got some fine sediments into the basin.
Mhm.
So the restoration plan for that is to clean it and stabilize it, get vegetation growing in there. And I'm pretty confident that it's gonna work. Obviously, we're gonna have to document that, but that is the corrective action proposed out here.
Okay, but it's been 3 weeks, so it hasn't been done yet. And then how will you actually stabilize it with vegetation if it's accepting water from
Right,
the
so
stormwater system? I don't know how you're gonna do that.
yeah, so we'll just have to, I think once we clean out the bottom of that, it should drain within 72 hours. So yeah, like you said, it's definitely gonna be accepting water. And we're just the wetland mix, conservation mix that's proposed at the bottom of it should survive, but it's something that we're gonna have to keep an eye on.
So is there a reason why it hasn't been done yet? It's been a couple of weeks.
Since we submitted, no, so we just met out there last Thursday. So we just wanted to have a clear plan of action out here, so we don't have to do it twice.
Okay. So, I mean, my hang up is it's the draining. I think I gotta see the basin draining before we're able to issue a partial COC.
Okay.
We also need the bond executed as well.
Yeah.
The question about the conservation markers is kind of interesting to me. My first reaction to that is we make everybody put them up that way. And so if we start issuing waivers for it, everyone's gonna ask us for waivers for it. But then the flip side of it is there's so much of this buffer zone that's out behind things that are not really going to see further landscaping and regular use. So I'd like the board to have a discussion around whether or not we see it fit to extend the distance between posts in areas that are not really going to be traveled.
Did you feel comfortable with 100 feet, Ben? I was just curious, what was your, I guess, max you would go?
Honestly, I'd like to see the site plan again to sort of
That's
see
fair.
where people are gonna be. Austin, is
Yeah.
that something you can put up?
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
And then Jen, do they landscape back there?
Well, somebody has to mow the basins that go right up to the limit of work.
Yep.
All the grassed area,
So there-
it's
So it's
a
necessary.
sizable
If-
amount of area that would be technically landscaped.
If I'm recalling correctly, though, wasn't there a huge swath of this line that is sort of not touched? Let's see the site plan. I think
Let's
that'll
see.
be fun. Yeah.
That's that's what the markers are.
Right, that's
Shit, all right.
Can you see that?
I think it's loading, so just give it a second.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, so it's I mean, let me just-
Could you just zoom in for me?
yeah. So this is the site as built. This isn't the proposed site plan. So what I don't know what happened during the permitting, but we didn't have anything shown on the plan. I think the condition might have been every 25 feet. But so we kind of placed them out here during construction and kind of, high visibility locations at the pre-developed site. So we have one post here, which you kind of, it's over the septic system where they will, this is planted out along this area here. So we got a post here. We have a post here on the back slope of the basin.
Mhm.
And then similarly on the back side of this basin over here. And then one up where the driving range used to be. So it's actually on the back side of this existing detention basin out here. And we have, this is the back of this driveway has a small wood guardrail on it. And this is obviously your trailer parking back here. It's not really a big deal. If we didn't have to put in 210 posts, we'd rather put in 20 or something like that. I think it's going to get the job done. But again, at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world. And again, this is going to be grown in pretty thickly. This is going to be, I guess, yeah, around the septic leaching area. They'll be cutting that, and they will be maintaining the basin out here. But they're going to be kind of, you know, coming in off the parking area into here to cut or whatever they're doing in here. And then this is already, well, this time of year, it is pretty thick back here, but it's regrown very nicely, the driving range out here.
So maybe when the infiltration basins are corrected, we do a site inspection and take a look at
Sure.
what signs would be more appropriate.
Yeah,
I think that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense on our end. But yeah, so again, we just wanted to kind of float that out there and get all the comments from peer review and staff, just so we kind of knew where we stood here. But they did quick work out here, and I think they did a good job in terms of keeping the site clean and being transparent. So they want to get it done right.
Okay. So I think we need a few things buttoned up, and we'll be in a position. Most important to me is the basins need to drain.
When is that
Right.
work scheduled, Austin?
I'm sure it is. They're probably honestly doing it this week. I can follow up. I'll follow up with them after this meeting,
Okay.
and I'll talk to them about the surety and if we've gotten anything back from Natural Heritage. I know the final document from them will be 2025.
Yeah.
That's when they're, per their order of conditions, that's when they have to review it through. So, but I'll give an update on that, and maybe we can get something scheduled out here.
All right, so I'll move to put you on the August 5th agenda, and you can update us again.
Perfect.
All right, motion to move the certificate of compliance for 550 Turnpike Street to the August 5th, 2024 meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission.
Benson, second.
Carol motion, Benson second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Spady, aye.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Jennifer, I didn't just cut you off, did I? Did you have something else you wanted to add there? Okay.
Nope,
Thank
I
you.
said thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, so moving on to enforcement, let's begin. Actually, Jennifer, you want to just,
Yeah, there's not that much to report on this, except 5 Jonathan Drive did get their letter from town council requiring work completed by July 30th. And 8 Lyman Wheelock, they have been planting the restoration plants. So that's basically the update.
got it?
Yeah.
So board discussion, first topic is the rodenticide letter.
Yeah, we were asked by a resident if we had some thoughts on not prohibiting, but educating people on not using the rodenticide that, and I forget the acronym here. The one that doesn't make everyone hemorrhage to death.
Yeah.
And so we did a Facebook post. And I think she was still looking for us to send a letter to other departments. I haven't had time to draft that
Yeah.
letter. So it would, if somebody is interested in doing that, by all means, let me know. I'd be happy to. Okay, I will. For next meeting. Thank you. Okay, good.
Project list?
Yeah, the project list, we submitted the 4 CPC grant applications. And so I'm going to hand it over to Al, because you had a meeting last week and we should have put your CPC update on the agenda and we forgot about that. So sorry, Al.
Let's start with I tried to get Jennifer to do just one meeting with all the items submitted by the CPC or CCC, hold it in one time, but unfortunately that was not possible. So she was kind enough to say that she'd volunteer to present on 2 different meetings, and we'll cover all 5 projects as for the next upcoming. There's no discussion on those items. A little bit of discussion on the the Chestnut Street project, and I think they're looking for some serious justification for that. And I mentioned that the town of Mansfield and Easton were trying to work together on this to acquire the land, and that it was a major animal thoroughfare and therefore warrants, consideration of keeping it the way it is. Specifically, and I found a note in the community plan that animal preservation and animal conservation areas were a priority of the town. So this is keeping with that, but I think beyond that, we should probably think of some other strong arguments for it. And I know Chestnut Street was listed as an area of concern, an area of interest in the previous plan. So with regard, shoot,
You're still
got
there.
sorry, I knocked it a second. With regard to the community CCC plan, Jennifer gave you a copy of it in her submission of today. It's a 12-page document that kind of hits the highlights of what the plans, the community's priorities should be for 2025 and beyond. The publishing date of that is October 25. So Tom Broussard, the chair of the commission, CPC, was interested in having a couple of things highlighted, which I discussed with Jennifer. And that was the properties that we were specifically interested. And he was also interested in numbers to go with those associated properties. And I think Jennifer has some strong arguments why, and I believe she is correct, why those shouldn't be put in the plan, numbers of the cost of the different areas. So we'll leave that aside. There's the main focus on the town plan or the CPC plan that we should focus on is starting on page 4, which is open space. It mentions trails, maintaining trails, spending money on trails, the acquisition of property that might be useful for trails. All of those were mentioned, but the main two areas are on page 4 and page 8, specifically related to open space. So I think we need to look at those specific pages and start thinking about if and how we want to change that, update it for the 2025 period. So we do have, let's say, a little bit of time with a due date of October 25. I'm sure they'll want to get that wrapped up before that, but it's the final document has to be agreed to by all by, say, September or so, I would guess. So it can be put out in October. That's about it. And unless there's any questions from anyone on the projects, all the projects will be discussed in August and then early September. So by then, the CPC will have a list of projects which they will notify the presenters on who will be asked to continue the process, and notifications will be sent to those that are not going to be selected for this round.
Okay.
That's about all I have from CPC.
Thank you very much, Al.
So if I understand it, the CPC has this plan that they use to determine or sort of rate projects that come in on whether or not they want to fund them and recommend them to town meeting. Okay.
Yes.
And so they're going to update it and they're asking at least the 3 principal or 4 principal purposes of Community Preservation Act: conservation, affordable housing, historical, and recreation.
And open space.
Their information to put into that plan.
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
The current plan has some broad categories, which you already mentioned, the wildlife habitat and probably contiguous land. And then it says, in addition, then they list some parcels where I'm not sure any of us know where those parcels came from and whether or not they're actually based on wildlife or environmental purposes. And so they're looking for us to update that.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
so
And identify any others, you know, or that you specifically know of and want to include them in the, you know, first major
okay.
items.
So concurrently, sort of, we're updating the open space and recreation plan. So I've been working on a lot of the stuff that I can do in-house. And
Okay,
then we'll start to have public meetings on that where the whole community will get together and say which areas they want to preserve and why. And those are going to be some pretty big discussions that we would include in the open space plan. But for the time being, I did have some thoughts. So I'm going to share the screen.
We can see your screen. It's a blank page, but we can see your
That's
screen.
a blank page. Okay, here we go. I don't know why it's so small. That's better. Okay, so this is something that I did in Norton. I've written 4 open space and recreation plans. Now in number 5, they're all like 300-page documents. These are not small things. And early on, towns, most municipalities were listing specific properties. One, it can jack up the price where a developer could purchase that property and then say, well, I'll sell it to the town, but it's worth this much more money than it would have been if the town just purchased it. And then number 2, property owners were calling saying, you listed my property in there. I didn't say that was okay. And so they were feeling not great about having their specific land listed in an open space plan or a CPC plan or something that's a public document that specifically lists them. And so in Norton, we came up with this other way to deal with that. And we listed all the things we thought were important criteria for how we would look at purchasing property or any kind of acquisition, whether it's donation, Chapter 61 land, or purchase and grant writing. And so here are some of the ones that we use. If it's already abutting other permanently protected or town-owned land, if it's in a water protection area, if it's more than 10 acres, contains rare species habitat or core habitat on the biomap, if it has wetland and floodplain, if it's within any of the ACECs, areas of critical environmental concern, because there are only, I think, 29 in the state still. If they provide access to boating, canoeing, fishing, or any other major water body or waterway, if it has historical, cultural, archaeological significance. And then when we have the open space discussions with people, sometimes they will call out specific properties. So if that was listed in the open space plan, or if it's actively used for agricultural purposes. And so there's 10 criteria in this example. And then if a property comes up, then we would rank them. They would give them points. So 1 point if they got any of those. And if something had a minimum of 3 of the criteria, it would be, okay, we're considering that. If it's somewhere between 6 and 10, we would say, you know what, that's a priority. And if it was more than 6, met more than 6 of the criteria, we would say that's the highest priority. And we really want to focus on that. But the ranking is just a tool. It doesn't mean you can't go back if you've already puzzle pieced something else and say, well, you know, we want to add that too. So it's a ranking system. I don't know how you guys feel about that versus.
I think that sounds eminently practical. It's a good way to have explainable way to you know, to talk to people about why we're acquiring land. So
It also gives a little bit of a
this
quantitative thing that I think some numbers and money people prefer.
Yeah.
And And we certainly don't want to put prices of property in any kind of a plan.
I
when
think
it-
we all agree, or
I
at least I
agree.
agree with that.
Okay, so
How
if-
the other folks feel about that, that was something that the chairperson wanted to include, and I go with Jennifer's explanation why that may not be a good idea.
I agree.
Completely.
okay, so this approach is good for you guys.
I dig it.
Yes,
Okay.
Very good.
I started to draft what I thought was appropriate for Easton, but I almost want to have you guys say it and I'll type it in and we'll see how I did. We'll see how I guessed. So if you were looking at property that you think you want to preserve, what would you say is, what would you say are your priorities?
I think the animal, wildlife thoroughfares or an area that supports wildlife would be one that I'd like to consider.
Beneficial wildlife habitat.
Yeah. And it is specifically noted in the previous plan.
Okay.
So body.
And
of
that would
water.
pick up your transfer, I mean, that would pick up your, the argument for Chestnut, I believe, in that it's a major corridor for wildlife to move through, so.
Yeah, that's a great project. I mean, you're purchasing maybe 25 acres and we end up preserving well over 100.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a
Great
that is
example
a
of puzzle piecing.
no-brainer. Isn't it all map box turtle habitat too?
It's rare species habitat. It certainly provides common habitat. There's a number of really good attributes that we included in our letter of interest on that anyway.
Okay.
It's a home run. It really is. It's a beautiful
Yeah,
area.
I'm in
anyway.
favor of it.
All right. So wildlife corridors and habitat is important to us. Anything else? What else? Or
And
do you just
water.
want to see my list?
Brandon, let's probably help.
I kind of want to see your list and then add to it.
All right, we'll just skip to my list then, and you can cross off or add.
Carbon sequestration through soil or forestry.
That's support, that should be. You know,
Okay. Is that big enough, or do you want me to enlarge it?
Zoom in a little more. You don't mind. There you go.
How's
Awesome.
that?
Also
Okay.
aquifers.
So anything that protects the aquifer, if it's in the ACEC
Yeah.
zone 1 or 2, a sole source aquifer, and we also have the Canoe River Greenbelt project, which was something that the Canoe River Aquifer Advisory Committee started at more than 30 years ago. And it's trying to preserve 500 feet on either side of the Canoe River.
That's pretty cool.
Okay, anything that protects wetlands, vernal pools, or stream corridors.
also the wellheads for public water was mentioned in the previous one. I think that's a good
Okay.
one.
So Al, that would be covered in the zone 1 or 2?
Yeah.
You
Zone
lost
1
me
is the
there.
wellhead area.
Oh, okay, those are specifically
2,
noted.
yep, and then 2 is the soils. It's a mapped area.
Okay, yeah, that would qualify as long as I didn't know the specific name of it.
Anything with state listed rare species, or there's a priority vegetation map, which is really fascinating. We do have some really important types of vegetation areas that I didn't see in the last open space plan, but it's mapped by Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program. So certainly acidic bogs. There might be a fen in town. There's riverine habitat. There
cool.
unique habitat, unique vegetation types that should be captured.
That's cool.
What about, is there, one of the things I think that we should probably list in there is the location of possible trails within newly acquired property. I don't know whether there's any trails out or around the Chestnut Street property, but I think for recreational purposes, might be a good idea.
So if I'll skip to number 5 and I'll say anything that provides a linkage for wildlife and or for people. So like
Right.
trails and water trails. So we could have, be trying to purchase property at one end of a stream and be able to take a kayak or a canoe all the way down to another end and then have that as a portage or a parking area as well.
Good
So that would
idea.
create a water trail, a blue trail is what they call it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Okay. provides a large conservation block of greater than 20 acres. I picked 20 because, you know, land is scarce in southeastern Mass and you're not really going to get a very big
Right.
chunk anymore. But if it is abutting other properties and it creates a 20-acre block, then that's pretty good.
Got
Yeah.
it.
Unless you think 20 is too big or too small, we can talk about that number.
It's pretty
as
good.
well.
It's pretty big for around here, like you said. That's
It would be big for around here. I
a
mean, you
lot of
could,
land.
I mean, the one for Norton was any property that was 10 acres or more. You could certainly put that there as well if that's something you like. And then the last one was provides carbon sequestration through soil and forestry, or provides
Absolutely.
an opportunity for wetland migration, or provides flood storage, right? So as the weather is changing, we're getting much more intense rains. And so we want to make sure that wetlands can expand into the upland where they naturally want to go. And so mostly we see this with the coastal areas. You want that salt marsh to be able to expand, but we also need that for our floodplain areas and for our wetland areas. So those are the first 6 that came off the top of my head. And I thought, well, let's see what else you guys think are important or what you would be interested in. Or is there anything you want to steal from Norton?
I mean, that's a good foundation for 6.
Yeah,
gotta tell
I like your list. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know, I mean-
it was thorough, but I think the
Yeah.
things you put here, you know, we ought to see, most of them, I think, will be consistent with or supportive of your ideas, but I'd go back up there and see if we missed any in the,
Sure.
you know,
All
on
kind of-
this list.
Okay, so it's abutting another property.
That's good, yeah.
It's a little different than if it's in a 20-acre block.
Couldn't we have both?
You can have both, yeah. You can have anything you want. It's your list.
Yeah,
Let's
think
copy
in this-
paste it. I'm just
in this case, maybe comprehensive might be better.
I would add it. I have no problem with adding it. Okay. Water Protection District, we actually have that encompassed in a much larger one, so that one's covered. Land, if the parcel itself is greater than 10 acres, is that something you want, or do you think you're happy with the?
I'm happy with 20.
Rare species core habitat. I'm sorry for all the scrolling, but let's just, yep, we already have that.
Yeah.
Sorry, that other guy was making me so dizzy with the plans.
Yeah.
Contains wetland or floodplain.
Yes.
I don't know if we put that specifically, so I'm just gonna copy it and bring it down here and just see.
In Easton, odds are it will.
Yeah, we did wetland, stream corridors, so floodplain. Okay,
I don't think there's a 20-acre parcel of land left in this town that doesn't have wetlands and or floodplain on it.
I know there, well, there won't be. Okay, so we have ACEC. You have 2 of them in town, the Hockomock and the Canoe River. Just leave it as an area of critical environmental concern, covers it.
Yeah.
Provides access for boating, canoeing, fishing, or other water body.
That would be nice.
Well, yeah.
And so is that different than this linkages, or do you like this better than the word for the linkages?
Well, linkages are kind of different, right? Because
Okay.
yeah, I think it's separate.
Historical, cultural, archaeological significance.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
I won't play devil's advocate. I will.
Yeah.
Does that leave us in a position where we're sort of saying this is what we're interested in, and then we wind up preserving things that aren't typically within our scope to preserve? I think we wind up getting to make the decision, so I don't really think it matters. And it broadens our scope of what we can consider, I suppose. So let's keep it.
Well, what do you
Oh,
mean
you're
by
saying-
your scope of what you can preserve?
Well,
Yeah.
I
Like we
guess
put ourselves with a stalemate.
This
the-
one may be good to leave in because I'm not sure that each other organization is going to look at acquiring land. So most of the other committees, I don't think will cover specifically land acquisition, or in this case, historical. Can always take it out. You can always
Yeah.
take it out later, you know.
Well,
But I think people would agree with that it's at least ought to be considered. Not
So-
every one, as you mentioned, Ben. There's a lot you wouldn't want to maybe acquire, but
the point of this list, though, right, is to establish what properties we're interested in,
yes. Yeah.
and adding it, I think, causes absolutely no harm. I just would
Right.
vocalize that I'm weary about taking on additional things to maintain that fall outside the scope of conservation. That
Yeah,
would be
in this
justified.
case, it may either come from, the historical committee or ourselves, the application, or joint application.
Yeah. I guess
But I get it,
I cite to Tufts Farms and the Wheaton Farm Barn as
Yeah.
things that I'm very glad that we have as resources in this town, but things that I would rather be under another commission's control. Not just because it creates like a property management burden on the commission that I don't think we have a little bit of a different mission.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how would you feel about getting rid of, well, cultural?
Because I like it still, right? Like I think, even in the case of the two properties I just managed, they're important and I like that we have them. So I've added about 5 minutes of blabbering to this and I'm in support of leaving it in there.
No, I agree. And plus, it doesn't always apply just to buildings, right? It could apply to anything sitting there that's historical, right? So,
Yeah.
But yeah,
And
I
if
agree
we're
with that.
gonna still follow that same sort of idea, then this only gets them 1 point.
Yeah.
If that's the only thing that's on the list, then 1 point is like, we may not be moving forward with that kind of preservation project.
Yeah.
We ought to add one more item.
Okay, well, let's see what the
That
last
way you
two
got,
here are.
that way there'll be a possibility of 10.
Okay. So the last two we had here were specifically written in the open space plan, and sometimes people do and frequently will list specific parcels, or it's actively for agricultural purposes.
I want that one.
Yeah, that should stay. That we should use.
Agriculture.
I want that.
I like them both, but I
Yeah.
leave them up to you.
Yeah, let's do. I mean, I'm good with both.
The
agricultural land is
recreation,
cost
the
covered.
recreation group we should, I wonder if there's any way we can just consolidate it to 10 or 9, or 10, excuse me.
What happened here? There we go. Well, we don't have to do this all tonight, right? So this was just so we could get the conversation started. I'll
Yeah.
finish writing it up as a little bit of a proposal draft for you guys. We'll talk about it the next meeting because we have until October. But I didn't want to wait until August to start talking about it when.
That's October next year.
Oh,
we
October
do.
next year, okay.
But I think you're right. We got to start on it, at least these items that have to be coordinated throughout different groups. You probably have to start now. So Jennifer's ahead of us.
What else is new?
Oh, I have good news. I found out today we got the $5,000 for the pond evaluation from Taunton River Stewardship Council.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
So anyway, we got a grant. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing this. I think that was good, happy project with all that
Yep.
wetland,
And maybe if
all the wetland permitting in between.
maybe by next meeting, if everyone can take a look at specifically the open area, open land acquisition, that kind of concept, and
Yeah.
go over, see what we agree with, what we want to maybe get changed, that'd be great.
And then as we go through the open space plan, some of this will be a little bit clearer to you. It's,
Mhm.
I mean, I probably have a different way of doing it than it's been done in the past, so It'll be interesting. Okay, so, and Al, at the next meeting, we probably have executive session, depending on how things go with one of our violations. And we also have Dominic's presentation on chestnuts that Al set up for us
Fantastic.
in the beginning.
Thank you, Al.
And then hopefully all the things that got continued will have all their stuff in order and we'll be able to just close those.
Yeah, as a favor, could we pick up Dominic first?
I'm in.
Do Dominic before
Yeah,
executive.
the rest of it?
Yep.
Because if there's any other residents listening, that would be, might be nice to have them hear it as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
8-5. Yep. And so the only thing we have left for tonight is the minutes.
All right, so, yeah,
I would
Al,
like-
please.
I would like to recommend that we accept the minute meetings as amended and the executive session minutes as presented.
Carol second. Benson motion, Carol second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Spady, aye.
Hey, thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Sweet.
That was
Thanks,
a
Kate.
lot, but you did well. Good job.
Not too bad.